Welcome to Ecotopia U Media. I'm your host, Melissa McGinnis, joined by my co-host, Tom Wright. The Tom Wright.
Hello.
It's so fun to see you today. And we have a really great guest with us, Scott Price. Scott, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Great to be here.
Where are you coming in from?
I am currently in Wimberley, Texas at my house. It's about 30 miles outside of Austin.
Well, it looks beautiful. I can get a little peek of the background there. It looks absolutely stunning.
Exactly.
Very nice. Well, thank you. You and I have actually met before in the past, so it's nice to see you again.
Okay.
We were going to get a little bit of your background. You mentioned that.
So tell us, you're from that general area there, but originally you're from Oklahoma, yes?
Correct. I was born in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. My dad still lives there today, and I spent my early years there, but I got to Texas pretty early. I moved to Texas in Christmas of '77. Actually moved in with my grandmother into the house that I own and live in today.
That's great.
Outside of being flooded, but we'll get back here. So I've lived in Central Texas, in and around the Austin area since '77, and got here, quit school. Actually, I became very disenfranchised with school. Went there initially, University of Oklahoma, OU, and of course now I live in Texas. That's a big deal. Yeah, exactly. Red River Shootout.
Yep.
But I was a math and computer science major. I have 3 older brothers and a father who all work with computer programming, and quickly realized, is that what I really want to do with my life? And I certainly have an appreciation for math, an appreciation for programming, a true appreciation for computers, but felt like there was something a little bit more in life. And I quit school, moved to Texas, lived with my grandmother, and did a little soul searching, and then got very interested in the natural foods industry, which at that time I'm not even sure was called the natural foods industry.
It was still the health food industry at that time.
Exactly, health food industry.
Yeah.
And this is the late '70s. Got involved with a food buying club here in Wimberley, actually. Moved to San Marcos, which is about 15 miles away from here, and was encouraged to open up a food buying club there, which we did. And it grew from a small group of people, 8 to 10 people, putting $500 worth of our money together to buy bulk foods. Within a year, grew to 75 families and about $4,000 to $5,000 worth of groceries, where it took 4 vehicles to drive into Austin to Yellow Rose Cooperative Warehouse on South Lamar, come back to San Marcos, and distribute all this food. Long story short, that's what got me into the industry. I ended up opening up a store in San Marcos that I had for 6 years, and Whole Foods opened up their South Austin store, which is the 4th store they'd ever opened up, and my sales dropped 30%. So it wasn't like I was trying to beat Whole Foods, but I closed up shop and went to Whole Foods, went to work for Whole Foods when there was only 4 stores. This is back in July of 1986.
That's fascinating.
That is fascinating. And what was your first role at Whole Foods?
I just worked on the grocery team at the original store, 914 North Lamar, and within about 2 months became the grocery team leader, basically the manager of the grocery team, grocery, bulk, dairy, frozen. And that pretty much set my career path right there, because I have always since then been involved with the grocery, bulk, dairy, frozen product management category, working with vendors, that sort of thing, ever since then. So yeah, did that for about 4 years, and Whole Foods was going to open up a store in Berkeley, California, and I was very interested in traveling and very interested in continuing to work for Whole Foods, and was fascinated with the idea of opening up stores. And I went out there and helped open up the Berkeley store in 1990, and that again set the path for a good majority of my career with Whole Foods. I ended up going around the country opening up a bunch of stores and became a grocery coordinator in the Southwest region. All said and done, I think I opened up or remodeled somewhere close to 50 stores for Whole Foods.
Wow. Can I back up for a minute and just ask you, what was your what was your interest in the natural foods industry from the beginning? What was your draw to that?
Yeah, well, it was all about health. When I was living with my grandmother, I read a lot of books and got very interested in health, and recognized that you know, there's physical health, there's mental health, there's spiritual health, however it is that you define that. Everybody has their own definition of that, perhaps. But I quickly realized that, you know, most people relate to physical health. And so, you know, I was inspired. I mean, I was either going to go into some sort of a healing modality career or something to do with food, and I even considered seminary. You know, so
you and Jerry Brown.
You know,
yeah.
Exactly. Well, you know, I mean, again, you know, the physical health aspect of it, you know, diet, health, exercise, you know, gardening. I would garden for the first time when I lived with my grandmother. I've been gardening ever since. You know, mental health, in anywhere from just helping people along, coaching people. I've been you know, a big interest in that. I actually changed my major from math way back into psychology, probably more to help figure out who I was, you know, but it's all about understanding the human condition and that sort of thing. But and of course, spiritual health, you know, everybody has their own angle on spiritual health, but I'm fascinated with that as well. But you know, the initial thing was physical health, diet, exercise. That's what most people can relate to in this world, and it's a great place to start talking about health.
I love that, and I love that the majority of the pioneers, it seems, in the natural foods industry came from an authentic purpose. They, you know, and health is obviously a derivative of that. They see food as a way of healing or as a way of toxicity.
Exactly, and I mean, you nailed it, because certainly the core of the industry, the roots of the industry, have everything to do with a real sense of authenticity when it comes to quality food, not so much, you know, the opportunist business opportunity.
Right.
You know, we all felt like, hey, let's just do the right thing, and, you know, right livelihood will happen. We'll end up making money, we'll end up getting by, but it was never really about going after making a lot of money. It was always about, you know, really doing the right thing and really helping people out, help other people find quality foods, and help to encourage local farmers, local production, all those sorts of things.
I love that, and I thank you for that. That's wonderful. So,
you're welcome.
So what are you doing now?
Well, a lot of things right now.
Besides talking to us in this moment.
Yeah, we're specific. Let's cover your professional, what you're doing now.
Okay.
Because you left Whole Foods a number of years ago and you started Scott
Correct.
Price Consulting. And
exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, will do. Yeah, I went to work for Whole Foods July of 1986, 4 stores, 3 of them in Austin, the original Shepherd store down in Houston. I left Whole Foods about 7.5 years ago, and I think there was, I don't know, 250, 300 stores. I've lost count. There's, 420 some odd now. And I left because I always felt like there was something more, you know, and Whole Foods, of course, has been an incredible success, an incredible ride, an incredible career. Lots of things are great. My wife still works for Whole Foods, so I still get my insurance and discount card. Awesome. And exactly. She's approaching her 25th year, so, you know, she's going to get her discount card for life. So
wow.
That's correct. That's right.
It's pretty awesome. But I left Whole Foods because I just felt like there was something more. Yeah, and it's not like I was bored with Whole Foods, but in a way you could say that I was just looking for something a little bit more stimulating, something a little bit more challenging. And I had always felt like I could probably make a good living being a consultant in the industry. And so I bit the bullet and dove off. You know, I left what they called the golden parachute, leaving Whole Foods after so many years, but started my own consulting company. And I ended up working for a lot of different companies, dozens of companies. One of the main companies I originated, you know, when I first went out to consulting, one of my first clients was Vital Farms. And I still work for Vital Farms. Vital Farms is pasture-raised eggs, some of the highest quality eggs produced. And we, when I first started, I think they were like 1 or 2 farms, and they were in maybe 3 regions of Whole Foods. And now they have become the juggernaut of pasture-raised eggs nationwide. You know, it was less than $1 million in annual sales back when I first started. It's currently around 40+ million annual sales. So, and the most expensive eggs on the shelves nationwide, arguably the highest quality eggs outside of having chickens in your own backyard, knowing someone who does, that sort of thing.
What's a dozen? What's
you know, really,
what's a dozen go for approximately? What's the retail price for a dozen?
Well, you know, anywhere from $5.99 to $9.99,
okay.
depending if it's a conventionally fed egg as opposed to an organic, certified organic fed. You know, they have 3 different tiers: organic, non-GMO, conventionally fed, supplemental feed, to being all pasture-raised eggs. So, yeah, expensive eggs, but you know, worth it. And with very little advertising, sales have just taken off. And you know, that was one of my original clients for 5 years. That was one of my main clients. I worked for a lot of other companies in the process. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, there's sometimes a delay, just to let you know. But it grew into a full-time job. I was actually national sales director for a couple of years. That just recently has changed, and we'll get to that here shortly. But I was national sales director for the last 2 years, and really got a lot of placements around the country, above and beyond just the natural foods industry. You know, with Kroger, Costco just rolled out, Safeway, Albertsons. Of course, now they're one and the same now. But it really shows that quality food is, I mean, there's a demand for really good, high-quality food everywhere. You know, it's great to think that it's, you know, the co-ops, the Whole Foods markets, the natural foods industry segment, but it's so much more than that now. And that only makes sense because it's food. It's basic food to help people live a more healthy life, to be healthy, to live longer. All those kinds of things go into, you know, what your diet and your exercise regimen is. And, you know, it's just great to see that the natural foods industry has blossomed out of the core, you know, Whole Foods market, co-ops, independent natural food stores around the country. You know, certainly, you know, it's important to continue to support those folks. And at the same time, there's a growing segment that just shop conventional stores that are also drawn to more healthy foods. And that's quite evident by the success of Vital Farms and by the success of multiple companies in the industry.
It does seem to be going mainstream. Stater Brothers is launching their own organics line.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is kind of interesting.
I'm so happy to see it. But what do you think is attributing to that, to healthy food and even higher prices? People are, I'm not intimidated. I spend $6.99 on my eggs.
Scott and I have shared this many times. We always scratched our heads because we didn't figure these products were too expensive because they were what they cost. They were true cost of products. And therefore the health-giving aspect of it was real, and that was the price, was you were getting healthier stuff. Now these eggs literally look different. They explain a little bit for the audience. I mean, if they haven't seen a Vital Farms egg, what's
exactly? I mean, what looks different about the eggs is not so much the outside of the egg. The shell looks the same, but when you open the egg, break the egg, and put it into a pan or a plate, you can see the yolks are nice, a deep dark orange color. We've been marketed our entire life to think that egg yolks are yellow, and that's just not true. I mean, it's all marketing. Egg yolks are actually naturally an orange color, and quite frankly, the darker the orange, the better. And you know, a quick aside, we actually had a customer early on, you know, check in with the website, do a little customer comment going, "Hey, my yolk is like really, really, really dark orange. Is that right? Is that okay?" You know, it was like she was so concerned that, you know, maybe it's bad because it's so dark orange, when in fact it's incredibly rich. You know, it's you know, it's high in minerals and vitamins and all the good things that you know, a nice quality egg that, you know, brings to the table. And you know, we get that a lot, is that people are just not used to a high quality egg. You know, they taste the difference. So we get tons of comments on, you know, folks talking about, wow, you know, I grew up on a farm, I used to have chickens. It's like it tastes like a real egg. And you know, and to me, just all of this is very symbolic of quality food. You know, we're talking about eggs, but we could be talking about cheese or milk or bread or even meats. You know, pasture-raised, grass-fed beef, grass-fed pork, very high in demand. And getting back to your question, you know, why is this happening? You know, good question. It's you know, you could turn it into a philosophical debate, perhaps, but I'm convinced that it's just unstoppable to the human condition, that we're going to be drawn intuitively, you know, maybe it's intuitive, maybe it's conscious, toward higher quality product, toward foods that are good and healthy for us. You know, a good example of this is that, you know, you put a a pile of GMO corn on a table and a pile of organic corn on the table, and then let roaches or rats go to eat it, they won't even touch the GMO. They're going to go right to the organic. So intuitively, nature is drawn toward the highest quality type food. And I think that that is true for us humans. You know, our brains get in the way, marketing gets in the way, you know, the bombarding of just society and all the messages on, you know, media and TV and newspapers and radio, and, you know, we're bombarded with what we think life should be or what we think should be good for us, when in fact, if we just trust our own intuition and learn to, you know, go within and trust what we feel inside, that's going to be where the true answer is, and we're going to be drawn towards, you know, the highest quality foods and, you know, the things that are quality in life.
That's so wonderful to hear. That is just great. Now, I don't think I'm super ignorant, but I'm just curious, what do your chickens eat? How are your chickens fed?
Yeah, well, we have up to 90 small family farms. They're all in the southern U.S. They're out on pasture every day. So they're eating grubs, bugs, worms, grasshoppers, ticks. They're eating the grass. They eat green grass. Some people think that chickens don't eat grass. Yes, they eat grass. And all of that contributes to that higher nutrient-dense profile. Yep. And then at the same time, if you don't give a supplemental feed to your chickens, they won't lay an egg a day, roughly an egg a day. The cycle of a chicken is every 26 hours, they are producing an egg every 26 hours. I mean, that's pretty, you know, it's really amazing when you think about it. But if you don't, you know, and they're only going to produce an egg if they have the nutrition in their body to be able to literally create an egg. So that's why you have to give them supplemental feed. And I said this earlier, but this is why we have 3 tiers of eggs: a certified organic supplemental feed, a non-GMO project verified supplemental feed, and then just a conventional feed. And I get the question all the time, hey, you know, does the conventionally fed eggs have GMOs in it? And, you know, you can't say that it doesn't. You know, the fields that we have are, they're not, with the organic, they're, you know, certified organic, but with the others, they're not certified organic, but we don't use any, you know, insecticides or herbicides or pesticides on those fields. So, you know, it really is the nature that the hens get when they're outside, you know, foraging for their own food. That's truly the difference that makes the quality in the egg.
I completely agree. I'm a big proponent for grass-fed anything. It's the way nature intended for our animals to eat. So bravo to you guys. But I'm a little confused about GMO, non-GMO and organic. I don't know if I just don't know this correctly, but I thought that organic did mean non-GMO.
It does.
Organic means the intention of non-GMO. Unfortunately, the truth is that because genetically, corn, canola, rapeseed, and soy are the 3 big crops, and soy and corn and canola can all be used in feed somehow, you know, and their genomes can contaminate organic genomes. So the truth of the matter is that this is why the non-GMO Project Verified had to exist, was because organic could be contaminated.
Got it.
Okay, so the distinction, non-GMO Product Verified does not equal organic. Organic's intention equals non-GMO, but if you really want organic that is non-GMO, if it's in those genomes, brassica, rapeseed, okay, which is canola, corn or soy, it is best to have both organic and non-GMO.
Well, it's a fascinating subject, and I think it's worth that explanation. Thank you for that, just for our viewers to understand it as well.
Now, Scott has a chapter that we want to deal with now here in the last few minutes here. You're there next to the Blanco River. I understand the Blanco River got invited itself into your house once.
It does. It is incredibly confusing. I'm sorry?
I said the Blanco River invited itself into your house. Yeah.
Yes.
Explain what happened here. You've lived there. Your grandparents owned that property, right? So how long has it been in the family?
Yeah. My grandparents bought this property in the early '60s and built the house. The original house in '62. I was 4 years old. I can remember coming out here. It was under construction. I can remember seeing the floor joist going across and the house being under construction way back then. I've lived in this house. I lived here again when I first moved in with my grandmother, but then I went to San Marcos, went to Austin, and my grandmother was leasing it out. It was a rental situation, and the renters moved out. My grandmother called me up. She goes, "Scott, the house in Wimberley is available if you want to live in it." And I go, "Absolutely." So I moved back out here, and I've been living here ever since. That was 1990. So I've lived here since 1990. I've seen the river, Blanco River, is right in our backyard. And I've seen it come up, the 100-year flood 4 times in the last 25 years, which is somewhere between 25 and 35 feet above normal. But then this last Memorial Day weekend, we had a big rain upstream, and the river crested somewhere between 45 and 50 feet above normal flow. Unprecedented, unbelievable, catastrophic. Something like 150 homes went downstream that night, and another 1,500 homes got flooded. Ours, one of them. All of our houses along here got flooded, all of our neighbors. So we've been dealing with that ever since. When your house gets flooded like that, it pretty much ruins anything that the water touched. So 3 feet and below, pretty much trashed everything, and that's really like starting over. We've been rebuilding our home, which is big news, big milestone, and hope to get moved back in by Thanksgiving. Our goal is to have Thanksgiving meal here, and I always joke about it, but plan B is that we'll have Christmas meal here.
Okay, got it. Explain a little about the weather, and you referred to 100-year floods 4 times. That sounds like and I don't think you're quite 400 years old, so
Yeah, exactly. I've said that a lot, Tom. I'm not over 100 years old, even though some people might think I am. But you're right. I mean, it's a very frequent situation. I think we've all seen extreme weather events happening around the planet. You can see that the hurricanes are getting stronger and stronger. The typhoons are getting stronger and stronger. We're seeing some pretty massive earthquakes, much more frequently, so on and so forth. So, why are these things happening? I've always said that if the climate is changing, wouldn't that be called climate change? And there's a lot of naysayers out there. There's a lot of people who are basically just not paying attention to the science of it. But I think that you'll see that if you dig into it, that this majority of the scientists around the world are going to agree that we're putting way too much carbon into the atmosphere. We are not paying attention to Mother Nature. We're indiscriminately using her resources to the nth degree. We're using, something like 4 to 5 planets worth of resources every year in this country in particular. And, all of these things are just contributing, in my opinion, to just an incredible imbalance in nature that's happening. And, I am now a climate change refugee because of it, and there are literally, thousands, millions of people around the world that are climate change refugees because of situations, the earthquake in Nepal, the earthquakes down in South America, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. So, come to find out, because of this experience, I learned that Central Texas is the most possible place to experience a flash flood in the entire country. We also had a Halloween flood. We had the big, huge Halloween flood. We had 17 inches of rain in 4 hours Halloween 2 years ago, which created Onion Creek, flooded, and this goes right back to Vital Farms. It wiped out the original farm of Vital Farms in South Austin.
17 inches and
40 feet.
17 inches in how? What period of time?
4 hours.
Yeah, 17 inches in 4 hours.
I think here in Los Angeles, 17 inches would be about
4 hours in the night, which is when
I think 17 inches in Los Angeles would be about 2 years worth of rain, something like that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, we always joke here in Texas that our weather forecast is pretty much, we live in a constant state of drought with an occasional flood. And that pretty much sums up our weather. Yeah, exactly. That's not original. None of this is original, right? But we got a flood. It affected our house. It affected all of our neighbors. Everybody's got their own personal situations of how they're dealing with it. A lot of people are rebuilding. A couple of the houses in the neighborhood have been torn down. They probably found that they just weren't worth repairing. A lot of houses are still sitting empty, so on and so forth. But what has happened here is just reflective and symbolic of what's happening around the world. And we're going to continue to see extreme weather events much more frequently. And it's nothing that you can, fix right away either. I mean, what is the cure? What is the fix? I mean, Tom will tell you a lot of things, which I will agree with. Everything he'll say is like, organic agriculture of all things could actually help reverse climate change.
Carbon underground.
It'll actually, carbon.
We need to,
going
yeah,
into
we need
the
to
soil.
the drawdown. Yeah, the drawdown is a very useful technique. There's no doubt about it. And can you just share a little bit? Yeah. Just kind of as the last, I don't want it to be a parting shot, Phil, but bring us through the experience of that night. Can you bring us through a little bit of it? Do you mind?
Yeah. I've shared this story a lot. One, I've lived here. I've seen 4 100-year floods. I thought that night was just going to be another one of those nights. I mean, you could hear the river coming up. You could hear branches snapping. They were snapping on a regular, frequent basis, and it was late at night, so I was actually drifting off to sleep, just not really paying attention. My phone was going off. I was getting National Weather Service alerts. Everybody was, I had friends texting me, hey, wall of water coming from Blanco, and all these signs of a big flood happening, but I've lived through 4 of them. So it was almost like cry wolf. I mean, if I would have gotten the text or the email saying that the river was going to crest at 40 or 45 feet above normal, I would have been moving stuff up immediately. But you never got that. You got the standard, hey, it's flash flood, it's raining a lot, the wall of water is coming, the Blanco's going to rise. I've seen this before. So we didn't think anything alarming about all that. So I'm going to sleep and drifting off, and Carol, my wife, suddenly wakes me up. Goes, Scott, there's people screaming outside. We got to go outside. I mean, not just screaming, but just screaming outside. So we get up, we go outside. We recognize that the river is already at our rock wall. It's our property line, which means that the river is already at about 35 feet above normal. That's the high. I mean, the record flood previous to this flood was in 1929, and the Blanco River was recorded at 36 feet above normal flow. So the river was already at that point. And we went outside. Neighbors were up, of course, and they commented that yes, there was like a mother and kids on floating debris that went by. They were screaming.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, so your neighbors actually experienced a tragedy.
Get my wife to high ground, dry ground. I wade back through the house, wading through my house, moving furniture out of the way as I'm going, get my keys upstairs, come back down, wade back through the water, get my wife, wade back to the garage, and we drove our cars out in about a foot of water. So we saved our cars, and I could go on and on and on. It was a horrific night. I never went to sleep that night, stayed up all night, and I did a Facebook post about 6 o'clock in the morning from a hotel in Austin because there were no hotels available anywhere around where we live. And I just said, catastrophic flood, house is flooded, I need help. And the next day, that Sunday, we had about 30 people show up, start helping to dig us out of the mud and clear out the house. And it was like a 3-week process of cleaning up the house, clearing out the house, stripping it down, cutting out the sheetrock, the insulation, ripping up the floor, getting to rock. And yeah, they were union scheduled in Colorado, so it was a nice break to get away. But we came back and started rebuilding right after the 4th of July weekend and have been at it ever since. And we're making progress. We're getting there. But a life changer for sure.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That sounds like a terror, actually, a horrible experience. All right, Scott. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. We're so sorry that it happened to you, but we're so grateful that you're still here with us. And we look forward to visiting with you again